I'm Sarah Hensley with Intego Insurance, and today we're going to talk about how to make sure your Polaris ATV can handle anything. You're going to buy a new Polaris Ranger because you want to take advantage of Minnesota's extensive recreational trails, or maybe you want to get around your campground in style. The Polaris Ranger and similar side-by-side models are part of a newer class of vehicles called utility track vehicles, or UTVs. UTVs can be used off-road for trail riding, but they can also serve a really practical purpose like around a farm. So this UTV, it's not a car, it's not a motorcycle, just how do we insure it? Today we're going to talk about a few tips about how we can insure your Ranger properly so that you and the vehicle are covered if anything goes awry. Liability is the first coverage that we want to consider today on the UTV policy. It's only going to be required if you drive that vehicle down the road, at least in the state of Minnesota, but we at our agency really recommend that everybody carry liability coverage no matter what purpose you're going to be using that vehicle for. Liability coverage helps cover bodily injury and property damage to others if you are in an accident and are at fault. It can also help you pay for legal expenses. In addition to those coverages, it can also cover other people's medical expenses if you were at fault in that accident. We recommend a minimum of $300,000 of liability coverage. Next, we're going to talk about collision and comprehensive coverage. This is just like in your auto insurance. Same thing applies to your UTV. Comprehensive and collision coverage are probably going to be required if you have a loan on the vehicle. Comprehensive coverage is just a fancy term for anything that's not collision. So theft. Your vehicle gets damaged by flooding, rising water, and certain natural disasters. Collision coverage is coverage for things like rollovers or hitting another UTV. So you're going camping, you've got a bunch of camping equipment, maybe you're going fishing, you've got fishing rods. How do you protect the things that are within that vehicle or added onto the Ranger itself? So a couple different ways we can cover that. Accessory coverage is the first thing. Accessory coverage is going to be things for maybe the cab, the radio, winch, different add-ons to the actual Ranger itself. So that's going to be accessory coverage. Most companies who offer this sort of coverage for a UTV are also going to offer you some sort of available option for accessories, because the base model that the insurance company is going to charge you for on the policy isn't going to include some of those extra add-ons. So you really want to make a strong consideration about accessory coverage. So if you need coverage for your hunting equipment or your camping equipment that you're hauling around with your Ranger, you want to make sure that you have coverage for your personal contents that are on board for that Ranger. Normally a couple $1,000s is going to cover it, but if you have some extremely fancy hunting rifle that you just purchased, you want to make sure that you've got the correct coverage for that. There's going to be deductibles for both of these accessory and personal property items, and you want to make sure that you're comfortable with the levels of deductible for those. Then finally, we want to talk about maybe you're a real diehard Polaris fan and you got in an accident with that UTV. What's going to happen is you take that Polaris into the body shop, and unless you have a certain coverage called OEM coverage, that Ranger is going to be repaired, generic parts that are replaced in that Ranger, unless you have OEM coverage. So it's really important that if you're real finicky and picky and only want Polaris parts reinstalled on that Ranger, you need to specify that you want OEM coverage. All right, next we're going to talk about what happens if you get hurt or one of your passengers gets hurt while you're riding on your UTV. First of all, companies offer coverage for injuries in a situation like this, whether it's to you or one of your passengers. It's really important to make that consideration because this is not something that's necessarily automatically included in the policy. You're going to have to think about this, understand the kind of levels of coverage, what sort of cost is included for those levels of coverage. Find out what's right for you. Some of the other coverage for the beyond the medical would be lost wages. So if you're hurt bad enough or your passenger's hurt bad enough that you have to take some time off of work, your Ranger policy or your UTV policy can actually step up, pay for those lost wages. Same thing if you have an incredibly serious accident and unfortunately somebody loses their life. There could be coverage available through one of these policies with this coverage for funeral expenses. So whether it's something just where it's bumps and bruises, minor scrapes, to an unfortunate death resulting from a UTV accident, there's coverage that's available, and it's something that you should definitely consider including. So spend some time figuring out what you need and also what your lender might need if you have a loan on that vehicle, because those two things might be different. Consider the accessories, the types of things that you're carrying with that Ranger, to know what sort of coverage that you need, because it's not just going to be a yes or no question. It's going to be what level of coverage that you need. So let's get to the heart of the matter. Having a Ranger can be great fun, but it also comes with great responsibility. You really want to make sure that you're getting the right coverage, not only for you, but any passengers that you have, your lender, and the things that you have included as accessories or personal items that are on the Ranger. You also want to make sure that you consider kind of the worst case scenario, and that injuries and or death could occur because of an accident on the Ranger, and that there's coverage for those. Finally, get out there, enjoy the trails, or put your UTV to work on your farm. If you've got any questions on your current insurance coverage, please let me know. I'd be happy to help. I'm Sarah Hensley at Intego Insurance.